Two's company, three's a crowd, but not for our next guests.
For almost a year, Charlotte, Jamie and Lora have been in a throuple, meaning that all three of them are in a relationship at once.
The trio, who all live together in Leicester, join us now to explain how their threesome works.
Good morning.
And so this starts... How did it start off? Because it started off, I think, with Charlotte, didn't it?
Yeah, so just casually dating, met Jamie online on an app. I originally really wanted it to be just casual dating. I wasn't really ready for anything too serious. So immediately we talked about the idea of non-monogamy. Right. So it was like that from the start. We were still dating other people while when we first met.
So I guess the difference with this is that you were very much in love. You'd fallen in love with each other, but you weren't willing to kind of be monogamous and just be with each other. You're not ready for that yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was initially a little bit cross that I started getting feelings for him. I want to be on my own. I want to have my independence for a bit. I want to explore the world on my own, but then caught feels.
Love it. Can't control that.
So how did, Laura, how did that happen?
So I was speaking to Jamie early 2020 on a dating website, and sort of when the pandemic happened, that sort of, it was on and off, wasn't it really, yeah. Talking. We obviously couldn't meet up at the time. And then I bumped across you on a dating website as well.
Yeah.
And we sort of matched with each other. Yeah,
there's a sort of, like, if you see someone you know on a dating app, you match with them. And it would have been really nice to know my metamour. Yeah. So my partner...
Metamour being partner of a partner.
Yeah,
partner's partner.
So initially it was just, I want to be friends with Lora. It would be nice for us all to have a friendship at least.
Yeah.
Well, it developed into a lot more. So you arranged to meet up. I think you were in Sheffield at the time, so you travelled down, you all had dinner together. And then actually what's quite nice about this is that there was no pressure. I think you ended up staying down, but you very much felt comfortable enough to be in your own room. So this happens very slowly at your own pace. You're very respectful of one another.
It's really
quite rightly so. Yeah. But that is very, very important. And when you got together and feelings deeper, and now you obviously all live together, continuing to work at this is key, because I think a lot of couples get together and then it sort of goes out the window slightly. You just take it for granted. You'll stay together and it'll all be fine. But you have therapy. You continually check in. It sounds like the communication between the three of you is better than most couples.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really important. You have to have really good, open communication. Try not to have any judgment. As much as possible. Like it's easy to say. It's not hard to. It's really quite hard to do.
Is it?
Yeah. Why?
Just in terms of being able to be that vulnerable about your feelings, because in a lot of couples you might guard things or hold yourself back a little bit to protect yourself.
I think there's a lot of fear of losing someone if you are overly vulnerable or if you share too much, but we've really tried to break that down, and actually this is the safest I've ever felt in a relationship, to be vulnerable.
Are you in therapy to help you with your relationship dynamic? As much as possible.
Like, we started quite early with that, simply because although none of us are particularly new to polyamory, it's more a case of because we live together, and it's a very different dynamic living together as a throuple versus living with I don't know, like a housemate or something like that. There has to be a careful balance, sort of equity, equality, that sort of stuff. It's really
wanted to make sure we just had all the communication skills that we possibly could. So we were all respecting each other's boundaries. We had a safe space to talk about those boundaries in a mediated space with our therapist.
What about things like jealousy? I mean, what happens if, like, you come home and two of you are snuggling on the sofa and you're like, oh, hang on a minute, I feel a bit left out? I mean, they say three's a crowd for a reason, because it's difficult. One always feels slightly left out.
There is a danger of that, isn't there? Like, how do you feel about it? Because I know you two have your own personal time as well, and
we do.
That's the whole point of it, really. It's like
we're actually going to Crufts this weekend.
Say hello to Dr Scott.
Absolutely.
So I mean, do you feel jealous that we're going to Crufts?
That's the thing. It's more about sort of like being happy for them, being able to do their own thing. Like, there's a lot of talk about it in polyamory about compersion, which is the opposite of jealousy, which is sort of like, say someone wins a wonderful competition, you're happy for them, massively happy for them. And that's kind of what you have to work on.
Yeah. Are you all seeing other people as well?
I mean, we do date other people. I'm dating someone else currently, but outside of this home dynamic.
How do you have the time? Thinking about this.
Yeah, I don't right now.
Scheduling.
Satisfying.
Yeah, I mean...
Do you feel about the fact that Charlotte is seeing somebody else?
Really, really happy. Like, seeing her come home happy after being with someone who makes her happy, it's just amazing. Seeing these, like, hearing these two laughing in the house is absolutely beautiful.
But, and the thing is, listening to you, I mean, it sounds amazing. It sounds great. But you're in therapy. I mean, it needs discussing. There is a difficult dynamic here to make it. And I love the fact that you say this is the safest you've ever felt. That's amazing. But there is still this underlying feeling of... And you don't like to use the word jealousy, but it's, I can see it in your face. I mean, there is this thought of, you know, I know I want everyone to be happy, but it doesn't.
Honestly, it's always been within me to have this sort of feeling. Jealousy's never really been my thing.
Yeah.
I've always been that. It's like being wired this way almost. It's bizarre, hard to explain to people. Like that feeling of I don't get that feeling of jealousy. It's kind of just like they're independent people.
Yeah.
And it's not up to me what
so
they
if they
do.
decided, right, OK, we are now a couple, then you'd be cool with that?
Yeah, I have to be. Like, it's their life as much as I don't control them in any way.
We're still going to experience heartbreak and...
Of course, yeah.
And all the things that...
That's no different from monogamy anyway.
It's a huge risk.
Yeah, that's true. What about the sort of future and what that looks like? Because I know, Laura, for you... being a mother one day is something that you would love to experience.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it was something that growing up when I was monogamous, I always thought would be a big thing, but sort of realising that I am naturally polyamorous has sort of enabled me to sort of look at things a bit differently. So, I mean, if it happens, it happens.
But
if
it couldn't
doesn't...
happen in this relationship because you two, that's not something you see in your future.
And that's something that we discussed right at the start. They were very upfront and honest about
Really
it, and I was like, that's absolutely fine.
So who do you decide who's going to sleep with who? I mean, do you just have a big bed?
We'll
You all have your own bed?
Yeah. We've all got our own space, which is very important
And
to us.
then you just choose the moment? Or
Yeah, I mean, we all have our own preferences. I think at the minute we just really like having our own space to sleep in. It's really important to get a good night's sleep.
Because we all have different schedules, that's the thing. It's like with you working nights and stuff, it's just keeping that sort of personal space is really, really important when there's three of you in a house anyway.
It sounds very respectful of one another. It sounds very loving. Thank you for coming in and talking to us about it. It's fascinating.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure. No, not at all. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Gemma said I can't even get a date with one person, let alone three.
Nicholas says, I like things to be equal, so it would have to be a foursome for me.
If they helped around the house and kept my husband happy, then I'm up for it. Thank you.